Hello and welcome to Leeroy Gaming, where today we're going to continue our coverage of Outriders, the game, with what I'm calling the most underrated Trickster Ugake Otarah's set build. So this is a build that I have put together. It is a complete level 30 build that I'm going to be sharing with you. And to give you an idea, it's going to include all the gear, both the legendary armor sets as well as the weapon, and all of the mods. And even though the pictures I'm using and some of the information is based off the leaked sets, I have gone ahead and edited the imagery to basically put in the mods that I would want instead, because the mods that were by default in there do not meet the specifications of the set that I'm going to be creating here. So when you watch this video, you're going to get to see all of that information. You're also going to get a fully supported skill node, skill tree set of nodes, and I'm going to explain all of those to you. So by the end of the video, you're going to completely understand how everything synergizes. It is based, as hinted by the name, on the Ugake Otarah's set. And the three primary abilities we're going to be using are going to be Venator's Knife, Hunt the Prey, and actually Slow Trap. And I will explain as I go on in the video why I chose those three skills in particular. Now, if you're new to my videos, to give you a heads up, my videos are quite extensive, quite detailed. So what I do for your convenience is I like to provide you with extensive timestamps in the description below. So do take advantage of that. If you want to look at a specific piece of gear, a specific section, please jump around. If you enjoy and appreciate my content, keep it simple. Just slam a like. That helps the channel tremendously. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. And let's take a look at this amazing Trickster set and this very, very underrated and under the radar combination. Okay, we're going to start by looking at the first piece of gear, which is going to be the Ugake Otarah's cowl, the legendary headgear. And very important to note, you're going to notice these are level 52 items. Don't worry about the stats and the numbers. What we're caring about here are the set bonuses and the mods that I'm choosing, and then how they will interact with the abilities as well as the skills and the skill nodes. So big thing here, the three-piece set that you're going to get as long as you equip at least 3 of these pieces of the set is Hunt the Prey, does not consume cooldown when teleporting behind an enemy marked with Venator's Knife. Okay? So let me go ahead and start by explaining how these two skills actually work. So Venator's Knife is an ability that we do not have access to in the beta. But the way it works is you throw out a knife, and it's going to hit an enemy, and it's going to bounce. It's going to basically chain bounce to a number of enemies. When it bounces, it's going to do damage to the enemies, and it's going to mark the enemies. So while they are marked, they're also going to be slowed. So you're going to do damage. You're going to do this marking. That's going to be very important in a second here. And they're going to be slowed. Hey guys, really quick addendum here for the Venator's Knife ability. I did want to point out that when you throw these knives and they bounce around, marking the target, slowing them, and doing damage, they also, while they are marked, make it so that the next time you do damage, it's going to double that damage, which I didn't mention originally, but that's a very, very powerful feature, especially since it'll get multiplied, either additively combined or multiplied by the other modifiers and that crit modifier that's going to be so very, very big in this build. Now, what Hunt the Prey does, it's basically a backstab teleport. When you cast it, it's on a very short cooldown. You target an enemy in the distance, you're going to basically teleport behind it. And innately, without any modifiers, all it does is doesn't do damage innately. And all it does is give you about a 17% shield. But you're in a position basically to backstab and you're behind the enemies. Now, what this set bonus is going to do is it's not going to go on cooldown. So in theory, let's say you marked 3 enemies, you could jump behind one enemy, kill them, target the next one, they're still marked, jump to that enemy, do the same thing. You can basically ping pong, which is the basis idea of the set. And it's going to get much, much more fun and interesting once you see the mods I decide to choose here. Now, right off the bat, I will tell you, this whole set and this build is super fast. It's aggressive. It does have a fail-safe in case you get over your head. That's what the slow trap's going to be for. But this thing is going to be great for speedruns, I feel, or just making really exciting videos. If you're going to watch somebody stream, this is going to be a really exciting playstyle. Okay, so now that you know what those two main abilities are, let's take a look at what the mods for this first piece do. So the first mod is called Instant Reload. Teleporting instantly replenishes magazines in your current weapon. Now this is important. Notice it says replenishes. It doesn't say reload. So in theory, you could use the special ammo skill if you wanted to utilize this. But again, the reason we're going to be using slow trap is as a defensive mechanism, considering that this is going to be for end game play. You could go super glass cannon, but we're trying to have a little protection built in. Okay, so the main thing here is if you have a weapon that you're going to choose that has a small magazine, you can teleport, kill something in a shot or two, keep teleporting, and you're not going to have that situation where you run out of ammo and you could technically teleport again, but now you're reloading and you just kind of miss your kind of sync system up. So this is an ability that, well, technically, if you wanted to, you could replace it. I wouldn't, most likely, unless there's something really amazing I haven't seen yet, because it's going to give you more fluidity in the build. Now, Eager Edges is great because it's going to add 2 more bounces during a ricochet path. Because we've seen scenes in a game where there's like 6, 8, 10 mobs, and you can even pull them together, more bounces is better. Cannot hurt to have more bounces here. So that is going to increase your DPS, increase the amount of markings you're going to get out there, better crowd control because everything is getting slowed, and more targets for the set bonus. So that is piece number 1. All right, piece number 2 of the set is Ugake Otarah's Talisman, legendary upper armor. Again, don't worry about the item level or the main stats. Let's take a look at these mods that have been chosen. So the first one is Sniper Blades. It increases the skill's range by 50%. Now, I really like this. I'm assuming this is only the range for the initial target. If this also increases the range that between potential enemies for the jumping, it's going to be ridiculous. Now, I'm going to assume it's just that initial range, which is fine, because the range on your teleport, your hunt the prey, is pretty far. So this is either good or amazing. Until we get to test it out a little bit more, we won't know. Now, Dance of Death is really nice because it's going to decrease the skill cooldown of Hunt the Prey. Now, remember, the set bonus is there so that once you have something marked, you can jump around for free rather quickly. But Dance of Death, especially on high difficulties, is going to be a way to get yourself out of trouble. So maybe everything doesn't die and you see something in a distance and you got like 5 mobs on you and your slow trap is on cooldown. This lets you just get out of there. Now, again, it's possible because the cooldown on this ability is already pretty quick that this could get replaced with a tier 2 or tier 3 better mod that we haven't found yet. But at its core purpose, it does serve the job of being able to jump around like a ninja with almost no cooldown. And that is one of the goals here. So that's a nice, solid piece number 2. All right, piece number 3 of the set is Ugake Otarah's Waistcloth. And for this piece, what you're going to start with is Boomerang Blades. This is huge. So after the initial ricochet, and remember, you're going to have ricochet +2 from the last piece. The knife will repeat its path and damage enemies a second time. So it basically does extra damage. I'm going to assume it remarks them, like refreshes the mark and resets the slow. If it doesn't, it's not quite as good, but I'm going to assume it does all the effects. And literally, you can't go wrong with that. Now, I don't know if it can pick up any other targets if they come in range. The wording states it just repeats the path. So probably not, but it'd be cool if it did. Either way, it's a great tier 3 mod. And then the other one is Time Blast. Now this is absolutely huge because remember, when you innately cast or utilize Hunt the Prey, all you do is teleport behind somebody and it gives you a bit of a shield. But now it's going to apply your slow in a 5-meter radius around the enemy you teleport behind. So in the beta, what I had to do was teleport behind and do a melee attack to slow, and would only target that first target. Sometimes that'd be like, teleporting into 2 or 3 enemies, and that was a little rough. But now, within that 5-meter range, they're all slowed, and you can go ham. So this is actually, for a level 1 ability, an amazing ability. So that is item number 3. All right, now we have item number 4 of the set. And so you're going to see my masterful edit here. So the first mod we're putting in, and notice right now it has 2 level 1 mods. Honestly, I think there's nothing wrong with this. Maybe there's level 3 versions of the same ones. But I feel for this set, these 2 level 1s are actually really, really good. So the first one is Weakening the Prey. It adds an interrupt to the Hunt the Prey. That is huge. The fact that, a boss could be casting or elite could be casting, you teleport behind them. And again, instead of taking that extra second to have to melee them to interrupt them, it does the interrupt automatically and inflicts weakness. So now, remember from the other mod, it's going to be slowed and it's going to be weakened and interrupted. So it's literally absolutely neutered at this point for those couple of seconds. And also sharpening. So increases the, again, don't worry about these numbers of 23,000. Just increases the damage of Venerator's knives. Again, they are a farther range. They're going to do damage to +2 targets, however many the baseline is, and it's going to come back around. So this damage just gets multiplied by however many targets that you're impacting. So it's just going to be a nice flat damage boost. Can't go wrong with that. If you have a bunch of weak enemies, you may end up killing some of them, which you'd prefer to kill them in close range just to get the extra buffs. But, if you're cooling the weak, basically, not a big deal. All right, so that is piece number 4. All right, now before we get to the weapon, we got piece number 5. So this is Ugake Otarah's arm wraps. And so basically, the first ability here is the one mod I have allocated to Slow Trap. Now, why only one? Mainly because it's already super, super powerful. You could do a bunch of fancy stuff, but literally the idea of the Slow Trap for this build, it's an oh shit button. It's also, hey, I've got a boss on lockdown. I teleported behind him. The initial slow wore off from the teleportation. Now I'm going to drop this, and I'm going to just go ham on this boss, try and burn him down, and then teleport out if I have to. So here, enemies entering the sphere are afflicted with weakness. So slow plus weakness equals literally useless. Now, whether you are doing it with the teleportation, the Hunt the Prey, or the bubble, you get those 2 debuffs guaranteed. I like consistency in my builds, so this creates that consistency. And you get Backstabber. So using the skill deals, again, don't worry, the number 79,000 means nothing. It's a decent number. So you're going to do a certain amount of damage to the enemy you teleport behind. So again, remember, Hunt the Prey baseline does no damage. All it does is gets you behind them and gives you some shielding. But now of all the buffs, you're going to get behind them, you're going to interrupt them, you're going to slow them, you're going to weaken them, and you're going to damage them. That is bonkers. And in theory, you could ping pong. If you wanted to, you could just do this, target the next guy, because there's no cooldown that you marked. Next one. You can literally teleport between them nonstop till they're all dead once you have this mod on. But it might be just as easy to just shoot them in the back and move on. But the point is, if you want to look like a freaking ninja teleporting left and right, this is going to be really, really cool. And again, very, very effective potentially. So that is item number 5. Now, before we go to the weapon, I just want to point out, if you want to see me streaming this game, this coming Saturday, right after launch day, I'm going to be streaming the game between 9 a.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Pacific. I want to see what kind of comments people leave. Whichever one of my 3 builds that I'm releasing this week seems to be the most popular, that's the one that I'm going to try and kind of power level and push and try and build into my actual build as best as I can. That's going to be my goal. So definitely make sure to comment below. Love to hear from you guys. And also, vote for your favorite class. Now, notice I said 3 builds. Yes, not 4. There's going to be a bit of a redheaded stepchild, partial pun intended, that isn't quite making it because the other 3 classes that are being featured, all I have found have really overpowered solo builds. The other one, struggling some. I'm sure there's going to be some mods and some builds that will make him more self-sustained. You know which one I'm talking about. You know that build. It rhymes with dead. So as far as the color that it's related to. So all the other ones will be out this week. So make sure, again, to vote for your favorite. Now, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the final piece to the puzzle when it comes to gear, the weapon. Okay, so for the weapon, there's going to be 2 options, but I picked this weapon for a very particular reason. So this is the Mind Mugger that was a data mined. Now again, don't mind the damage, don't mind the item level. There's one particular thing that stood out here. Of all the weapons that I took a look at, this is the only one that had a 300% crit multiplier. This Ninja Assassin build, you're going to be teleporting around. Things are going to be slowed. It's going to be very easy to get headshots, and potentially you can stack crit chance on your gear as well. We'll see. But maximizing damage is huge because, and actually, I don't know if I mentioned this when I talked about the Venerator's Knife. If I forgot, I apologize, but it really comes into play right now. So when a target is marked with Venerator's Mark, the next time you do damage to him, it does, it's going to do double damage. So why is that important? It's important because you have the option. Let's say you get the knife out and you're either not teleporting, or let's say you teleport but don't get the mod that does instant damage. You can teleport behind them. You crit them, it does double damage, and if it crits, it has a 300% multiplier. This potentially could do the most insane one-shot kills out there. Now, it gives you flexibility because it's really going to depend. If you happen to get this particular sniper or another weapon that has a very high crit multiplier, you can do the strategy. If not, chances are you're just going to get that mod that does damage, and when you teleport behind the enemy, you're going to do some nice burst damage and kind of go on your merry way. But this has a lot of potential. Now, another thing that I want to point out is you can actually modify these weapons. Notice this is burst fire. I believe you can change it to single fire or full auto, and that should adjust some of the stats. So if potentially you could change this to single fire, it might increase the base damage potentially. If it does, that will increase your potential for crit damage even more. So lots of stacking potential. Now let's look at the mods. The first one is going to be Killing Spree. So killing shots increase damage by 30% to this weapon. For this weapon, for 30 seconds, bonus deteriorates with time and stacks up to 3 kills. This used to be 5 kills. It got nerfed. It's okay though. It's still 90% damage. And 90% damage before it gets multiplied by that double multiplication for that first shot after teleporting, and before a potential 300% multiplier for crit damage. That's nutso. Okay? So you could literally teleport around the field, kill, everything's dead. And then if things aren't even worse, you have ultimate damage link when you have groups of enemies, because now shots link up to 2 enemies, sharing 30% of their weapon damage dealt and 10% of their anomaly damage dealt. this again got nerfed. I saw one of the pictures had it where this was supposedly 4 enemies, and it looks like they nerfed it down to 2. Still fine, because if you crit an enemy 300% and that double damage from hunt to prey, 30% of that is still going to be a ridiculous amount of damage. So this is a way for you to AoE kill very effectively. Now, you could also go with shotguns as an option, and you're going to see in the skill tree. But if you're absolutely min-maxing the damage, you're going to be actually using sniper rifles from close range. Sounds anti-intuitive or not intuitive, but it's amazingly effective. Now, let's go ahead and look at the skill nodes next, where everything is going to come together. All right, now we're taking a look at the skill nodes for the Trickster. Now, similar to my Devastator, you're going to notice I don't use any end caps in my builds. I feel in some cases they're a trap. You can get some amazing builds if you avoid those. Now, with my Technomancer, I definitely use an end cap because they have a ridiculously broken end cap that hopefully doesn't get nerfed. But here, I believe this build is going to be amazing for this combination. Now, let's see why. So we're going to start here at the bottom. You're going to start with 10% health. And the main purpose for this is we want to get to this element right here. Minus 20% damage taken from elites early on for 1 point. When we're talking about surviving high-end content, this is going to be worth it. And also, I find this as opposed to the top path a little bit better, since we want to get all of this down here. This would be kind of wasting some movement. So we get 10% health here. And now here's the beginning of the magic. Even within the first couple levels of the game, maybe the first 10, 15 levels, you're going to be almost broken because you're going to go down here. You're going to get, when surrounded by enemies, reloading your weapon deals damage and interrupts enemy abilities. Damage scales with an anomaly power. Now, if that mod that I went over, when you teleport, kind of refreshes your ammo. So if it actually just refreshes and doesn't proc this, it's okay, because it's going to be good for some other build variants. But if it happens to actually count as a reload, it would proc this. And do some damage and AoE interrupt. Awesome. But even if not, eventually you're going to have to reload, and AoE interrupts are amazing. But that's not really the reason we're here. We're here for this. Cycle of life and death. 10% health for each enemy that died in close combat is gathered for you. So this stacks with your base. So normally you start with 20. Now you're at 30. So every time you kill an enemy in close range, you get 30% of your max health back plus 12% shields. But then we're going to go immediately up. We're going to pick activating a movement skill, increases armor piercing by 15% for 10 seconds. That's great. Armor piercing, it's not why we're getting this. And we're going to be using movement skills nonstop because of hunt the prey. But we're getting it for this. Another cycle of life and death. Yeah, you saw that right. You're going to be able to heal 40% of your max health within the first third of the game, most likely, every time you kill an enemy in close range. That is bonkers good. Okay, now we're going to move up. We're going to get 15% weapon damage in close range. We're going to, even though we're going to be most likely using a sniper, unless you do a shotgun variant that I'll mention in a second, you're either way going to be in close range. So you want to get as many of these close range nodes efficiently as possible, because they're just way better than the alternative, which is always like 8% increase for all ranges. Next, speaking of which, here's your 8%. There's no way around it. We're going to then go to the right here, and you're going to pick up Equilibrium, 15% cooldown reduction on movement. So again, this is all about getting your hunt the prey on as fast of a cooldown as you can, because it's your get in, get out calling card. So can't go wrong with that. And the alternative, 20% crit damage is not bad, but you get already a 300% crit damage on your weapon baseline. So I'll take this. Next, you're going to do another close range, 50% weapon damage in close range. At that point, this is beautiful right here. You're going to take this one when your movement skill ends. So literally, when you teleport and you end up on behind the enemy, your weapon damage is increased by 50% for 8 seconds. But wait, we're not even done yet. You're going to go up here. And technically, you could do this one first. It's totally up to you. Activating a deception skill increases weapon damage by 50% for 8 seconds. Hold on. Venerator's Knife. That's not a damage ability. It is a deception ability. So you're going to throw that knife. You're going to get 50% weapon damage. It's going to be available for 8 seconds. Now you teleport to your first enemy, another 50%, so a minimum of 100%. But remember, if you teleport to something that has been marked, it's your cooldown's basically not reset, and you can keep teleporting, and you're teleporting around with 100% base damage, plus an additional 100% damage for the first time you do damage to him. And if you happen to crit, another 300%. So even if this is additive, even if none of it is multiplicative, if you teleport behind somebody after throwing Venerator Knives on them, you're going to do a minimum of 500% damage to them on that first shot. That is bonkers. And this is constant. Those two abilities are going to be on super fast cooldowns. Okay, moving on. Oh, guess what? They're going to be on off cooldown even faster. 15% skill cooldown, 2 deception skills. Let's keep going. Now 20% weapon damage from behind. Guess what? Hunt the prey. You get behind the enemy. Another 20% damage. Again, if it's only additive, it's still great. But imagine if this is the crit damage is a multiplicative after all these, it's going to be bonkers. Next, you're going to take in another 15% weapon damage for close range, followed by 8% weapon damage. Okay, next we're going to go to equilibrium. So this is going to give you an additional 15% skill cooldown for movement. Okay, so your movement ability, which is Hunt the Prey, is going to be, even when it is on cooldown, it's going to be almost non-existent. But really, we're trying to get to transfusion. Now, for the Trickster, it struggles. It has the least amount of weapon leech of all the classes. It's very hard to get to it. So here, 5% is hidden almost at the very end of this tree. But it's worth it, because if you've been looking at all my calculations, the crit damages, the activation bonuses, the post-Venerator Knife bonuses, all of those things, 5% of that is going to be a lot of damage, and it's going to really help you survive. And namely, in the one area where this class may sometimes suffer, and that's when fighting bosses. Now, this is where I want to point out Slow Trap. Slow Trap is going to be useful in 2 cases. Number 1, when boss farming or facing bosses, you're going to mop up all the ads. You're going to get on the boss. You're going to drop Slow Trap. He's going to be slowed and weakened, and you're just going to go ham on him until the trap drops down. You didn't get to get out of dodge. While you're out of dodge and waiting for the cooldown, you need to survive. If all the odds are dead, you're struggling to heal. But your damage output can still be so very, very high, because you could always teleport behind a boss, run away, shoot him while you have your buffs, and leech life until that Slow Trap is available again. Do that, and by that time, he's probably dead, if not close to it. So you can do that recycle of events, and this is why we go out of our way for that 5% leech. Now, you may notice there is 1 class point left, and that's on purpose. So my recommended playstyle is with that particular sniper, or there may be other rifles or snipers that have a 300% crit damage. You want something with the highest possible crit damage, because Tricksters have the easiest time of getting crits and headshots, because oftentimes things are slowed and you're really close to them. So I prioritize crit damage multiplier over almost anything else on a weapon. If you can get life leech on it, awesome. Not always possible. So if you are gonna go with a sniper, then get this. Get Unforeseen End, 20% weapon damage from behind, and another 20%. But if you find a really amazing shotgun, or you just decide that you don't like the way snipers or rifles play in close range, by the way, they play amazing, you can go for a shotgun, and you would lose this 20%. Instead, you would get Shotgun Master, which is, it's being blocked by my head, but it's 15% damage and 12% increased drop rate chance. So you're more likely to get good shotguns or shotguns to drop, period. And you're only losing 5% damage, and it's damage all the time. But again, you would pick this, the Shotgun Master, if you're going for a shotgun build. And if you're going to go with the sniper build, you're most likely going to go with unforeseen end. Okay. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the build. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed this content. And if you have, and if you've watched all the way through here, I greatly appreciate you because you're a small percentage of the population that watches my videos. Hopefully it's enough for you to subscribe and hopefully definitely like the content. Definitely check me out when I stream. I love interacting with my viewers. So if you have any questions, comments, or you just want to interact with me for whatever reason, comment below. I read all the comments and I respond to all of them. Definitely appreciate all of you. Hope you guys are enjoying this content. Again, this is Leeroy. This is Leeroy Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next video.